heck she's on about now? Jamie whispers to me, as if Mum is deaf, which she isn't. I shake my head. The name Ryan Anderson doesn't mean anything. Neither does Isabella Cawthorne. Who's this Ryan then? Jamie asks Mum, his voice rising from 0 to 100 jovial decibels. An old boyfriend? He winks, and I want to kick him. Though the truth is, we both find this impossibly hard. Mum's eyes are vacant as she stares at Jamie. Are you the paper boy? She asks. His face freezes. Jamie did used to do a paper round, I say, about 40 years ago. I'm your son, Jamie says, quiet and hurt. I never wanted any children, she says. Neither did Ryan. The following week I visit on my own. The care home living room blazes pink, an attempt at cheerfulness. Citrus air freshener mingles with the smell of old woman pee. My eyes scan over the hunched figures, bodies and minds in different stages of decrepitude, and I have to search several times before I recognize my mother. She's sitting in an armchair by the bay window, just one more old lady gesticulating to the air. I walk to her briskly. A false, bright voice is saying, "Hello, Mum, it's me, your daughter, Megan." The voice does not sound like mine, and since when have I had to announce who I am? The face that turns towards me is buckled, the eyes sunk into shadows. Who did you say you are? She asked. Megan. I don't repeat the daughter bit. Do you know what's happened to Ryan? She said. Only I thought I could rely on him. I don't even know who Ryan is. Of course you do. Her hands fluttered in agitation and tried to catch hold of one. The skin like old parchment, the veins like blue worms. She snatches it away. Must be my memory, I say, the irony lost on Mum. Why don't you remind me? Ryan worked, it seems, for the BBC, though doing what I can't quite figure. He is, or was, mid-30s, and given her general confusion over dates, we might be talking decades ago here. A bit of a drifter, she says, but indulgently. Tall, dark, and sexy. Very charming. Her smile is somewhat coy. I think of good old Dad, firmly anchored to the ground, who could never have had said to drift anywhere. And you liked him? I asked. I mean, fancied him. The word fancied sounds so teenage, though perhaps in her own mind, she is a teenager. Well, of course. And what about Dad? I want to ask, but don't, because there's no knowing she'll even remember Dad. She smiles to herself. The truth is, she leans towards me conspiratorially, I like him more than I want to admit. Which doesn't exactly clarify anything, but I try to nod sagely. And what about Isabella? Who was she? Isabella? She stares at me in astonishment. But that's me! Jamie and I, we meet up at our childhood home. Mum's savings are deteriorating with the same terrifying speed as her mind. Her house will need to be sold. It needs to be cleared first. Jamie takes charge of the mess of financial papers, bank statements and so on that goes back decades. I take over the boxes of old letters and photos. I browse through. Valentine's card from Dad. The red of the roses faded, soppy verses I'd never have credited him. Crayon Mother's Day cards, postcards from exotic places, a spiral-bound A4 pad filled with neat handwriting. A diary. It feels too much of an invasion to read it, and I put it to one side. I visit the care home as often as my busy schedule would allow, as often as I can face. Visits leave me drained, confused, depressed. Her eyes are blank as I tell her about my kids, my husband, my job. The vacancy switches to intense alertness when she mentions Ryan. "I've had bad experiences with men before," she says. This is news to me. The story she tells is a boy meets girl type thing, the kind of tale that careers off piss before landing at a happy ending. All of it is false. The story we grew up with was how Mum and Dad met when she was just 18. He didn't exactly sweep her off her feet, but he was solid, dependable. He was the one who stuck, she used to say, making it sound like superglue. And surely she and Dad were content enough, though not in the passionate, tumultuous way of Ryan and Isabella. "I didn't always treat him very well. Many a time he was said to walk away, but only he never did. I kept him guessing." Which doesn't sound like Mum at all, but hey, what would I know? I'm only a daughter after all. "A bit addicted to it." She leans over conspiratorially. "Sex, that is. Gosh, well, he was so good at it, though." This from my withered, demented mother. I update Jamie over the phone. He says it is indecent, all this talk of sex at her age. I don't know what he'd rather she spend her time thinking about. Escapism doesn't seem too bad an option given the alternative of pink care home lounge. Just, it's so all at odds with my image of Mum. Could she have had an affair? My mother? "Don't be ridiculous," Jamie says. The story moves on. There is something about terrorists and kidnap and being held hostage. It all appears rather far-fetched. "A book she read," Jamie suggests. "A film?" A novel plot sounds plausible. She was always reading. Except none of it sounds like anything I've come across, and it all seems so very real to her. Eventually I succumb. I seek out that diary, seeking clues. I hesitate, then I open it. I see how there are no dates. It's written in third person. That night, I stay up late, reading words from decades ago. The characters Mum created, breathing life into them. The events that are now more true to her than reality. The next day, I try to explain it to Jamie. He looks puzzled, my financial whiz-kid brother. "You mean like a novel?" Jamie is one of those people who never ever reads fiction. He claims he has no time, that he can't see the point of imagined lives. I nod. "Did you know she even did that?" Jamie asks, a slight look of distaste around his mouth, as if we discovered she was into porn. "No. She told me once that, as a teenager, she dreamt of being a writer. She laughs, shrugged off youthful fantasies and claimed she chucked it all out somewhere along the way. Is it any good? Jamie asked. A bit like the way he asked whether there might be value in an old china set or Dad's collection of vinyl. He's the sort who believes that J.K. Rowling is the rule, rather than exception. That anyone can write a best-selling novel, if only they put aside a bit of time and make the effort. Not bad. Doubt it's publishable. But it's what I need in order to understand. And the next day, when I visit, I know the questions to ask. Tell me, I say, about Isabella O'Brien.